Marissa Gordon with Your Today News. I'm here with actor and producer Diana Cherkas, as well as director, writer, and producer Steven James Creazzo. Steven, what was the inspiration behind your feature film, The Killing Time?
The initial inspiration for the script was to start with a car crash. I wanted to start a story that started with action, because I got a couple of critiques from another script that's saying the action doesn't start until page 5 or 6. We need something to happen right away. So I said, fine, car skids into a ditch. I was like, that's it, I'm starting with an action sequence. That was the initial inspiration for that. And then after that, I wanted to tell a story about a mother and a daughter and an assassin, and I wanted to just delve into that dynamic. And it just evolved and wrote itself after that. The characters came to me, and I set it in upstate New York, which is where I'm from, and that was the initial inspiration.
Great. Do you have anything to add?
Steve brought the script to me. We were actually in a car ride up to a screening for a film that we worked on originally, which is My Little Demon, and he started describing it and said, well, it's a mafia movie. And I was like, okay, it's a mafia movie. He was like, no, but it's different. I was like, sure, it's different. It was an 8-hour car ride up to Buffalo, and by the time we got up there, I was like, okay, I'll read it. And I read it, and I went, oh.
It is kind of different.
It is. There's something about it that is a very different vibe. It's a lot more, there's a lot more character depth. Mm-hmm. Very strong female lead, which appeals to me. And an ending that really caught me off guard.
And also what you were saying, it's an action film, but it's character driven. It is not plot driven. I don't write plot driven generally, so everything that happens is by the choices of the characters, and I like that.
Yeah, there is a substantial plot to it, but it's meaningful. It's not like a lot of action films that are like tentpole action films where it's just about how many explosions can you fit in at once.
Yeah.
Like what can we just make happen? And then you're watching it going, okay, that's kind of cool, but why?
Yeah, absolutely. And what made you decide to film in upstate New York?
I'm originally, my parents have had property in upstate New York for over 40 years now. Mm-hmm. So we've been living there on and off since before I was born. I've shot my very first film was shot in Prattsville. And we have a lot of property up there, and we can control the locations. That was the initial idea. My film I did a couple of years ago called The Ascent was written to be shot up there, but the funding came from Texas, so we shot in Texas. My Little Demon we shot there. But that was the initial inspiration, but then Hurricane Irene happened, and then Hurricane Sandy happened, and Prattsville got wiped out by that. And Prattsville's smaller than the Jersey Shore, and people don't hear as much about the help that they need up there. And that really started to spur us to, well, let's shoot it up there in Prattsville, and how could we involve Greene County, the Hudson Valley, and the Catskills all at the same time? And that's kind of where we eventually got the crowdsourcing.
And in fact, Steve's familiarity with the area also means that he knows about a lot of locations that other people really wouldn't be familiar with. So there's this one, I'm going to call it a lodge, I guess.
It's at the top of
Hunter Mountain.
Of
Hunter Mountain, that is perfect for this, for the climax scene, and you wouldn't necessarily think of it, but it's gorgeous.
Yeah.
And it's just going to be ideal.
Sounds great.
It's relatively, it's open during the winter time, this building, but during the summertime, it's generally closed down. People can take the chairlift up there for tours, but the building, except for the restrooms, nobody's there. So the building in the summer months, the building is available for locations, for shooting. And it's a stunning location. It's this circular cement building. It's fantastic.
Sounds great. And you mentioned crowdfunding. What made you decide to use crowdfunding as opposed to more traditional methods?
My film I did about 4.5 years ago called The Ascent was a regularly funded film from an investor in Texas. That was my first funded film as a filmmaker. I had done some films before that, but this was $1 million budget. So it was my first funded film, and as a first-time filmmaker at that level, you tend to give up a little creative control or final cut and stuff, at the end of the day, the cut that they went with was not exactly one that I was fully happy with.
Sure.
So in the interim between them handling The Ascent, I did My Little Demon with Diana. We wound up doing 5 film festivals, and
Wow.
Diana and Caitlin and Ali Stover won Best Actresses at the Buffalo Film
Congratulations.
Festival, and we
Thank
were
you.
nominated for Best Picture. And that
Wow.
actually brought The Ascent, the investor of The Ascent said, okay, go out and market The Ascent. And we did the Hoboken Film Festival, and Marty Cove won Best Supporting Actor.
Wow.
And that kind of brought me to trying to figure out a different way of investing, instead of doing it, you know, the traditional way, aside from the traditional way, is to try and use the experience that I built up between, you know, My Little Demon and The Ascent and all the actors I now know, to try and fund the film a different way. I mean, we have
Yeah.
investors that are interested in the project, but we want to get it going with, you know, crowdsourcing.
People are finding, and I think that's why even more known entities are looking to crowdfunding, is because it's easier to keep a little bit of creative control of your projects if you have a stake in it. And I think we're finding that people are supporting crowdfunded films because it's stuff that we want to see get made. I mean, who really wants to see another sequel to a remake? I mean, summer shows, they just aren't what people want. So we're hoping an indie action film with the heart of an indie, but the action of something with a little bit more budget is really going to appeal to people.
Absolutely. And you mentioned Marty Cove. How did you get him involved with this project?
Well, Marty is a good friend of mine. I cast Marty for The Ascent, where he played Lewis, a great role in The Ascent. And when I was writing The Killing Time, I was looking, and he played a good guy. He played, you know, a hero in The Ascent. And I was looking for my big baddie for The Killing Time. I just said, Marty. I bring him back to his Karate Kid days of being the baddie. And I called, and Marty is I've gotten to be pretty good friends with him. And I called him up, I said, I sent you this script, The Killing Time, and he said almost, quote, he said, Steve, it's you, you're great, I'll do it. I was like, wow, that was really good feeling.
That's great.
And that's how Marty came on board.
Oh, that's so exciting. And Steven, how did you get involved in filmmaking?
I was 18 or 19 years old, and I was in a car accident.
Oh.
I was in upstate New York driving. It was 2 days before New Year's Eve, and I was driving a car, and it was 3 o'clock in the morning, and I lost control of the car, and the car spun around 7 or 8 times and flipped over, and I went over an embankment into a ravine, and I walked away without a scratch.
That's incredible.
And that's what happened. And
Wow.
before that, I was doing refrigeration repair. And after that, I was always a film buff and, you know, watched films. And then after that, I told my parents I'm leaving the family business, I'm going to film school, and that was it. So within 2
Wow.
weeks, I changed my entire life.